yeah, it's quite exciting because you can get
Hmm.
so much more out of people when you talk to them and when you observe what they are doing,
Yeah,
than what you could ever get from Amazon reviews or from surveys. So
yeah.
many times people tell you exactly what they want, but then when you give them exactly that, they find out it doesn't really fit their
Oh,
existing
oh
habits or
wow.
their lifestyle. And so I think the challenge is really to look at what the problems are and then translate it into what products actually get the job done.
Hello, e-commerce friends. Today I'm very excited to introduce you to Ben Schwarz. Ben Schwarz is the design director of Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep might sound familiar. In our very first episode, we already had Mark Chung in the podcast, who is also the co-founder. Mark talked more about the marketing aspects of this brand and how they were able to scale it. And today, Ben he will talk about product design and product development primarily. To give you some context, Manta Sleep Mask started in 2017 with a crowdfunding campaign, or two, so to speak, one on Kickstarter and one on Indiegogo. And together on both platforms, they were able to raise more than $500,000, which was, I guess, great seed money to get that project started. And what sticks really out about this brand is the tremendous amount of customer reviews and video testimonials that people are dropping in for them. So they have thousands and thousands of different customers. They're all satisfied with this product. And now I want to welcome Ben to the show. And yeah, great to have you here.
Thanks, Marco. I'm happy to be here.
Sweet. Yeah, nice. I'm very curious. First of all, I would love to know a little bit more about yourself, Ben. Could you tell us, about your background?
Sure. Yeah. So my background is in industrial design. I have been designing products for pretty much 15 years. Um,
Mhm.
Designing, developing products, and that's really where my passion is. And also what I'm good at. I guess it's the one thing that I'm really good at and that I really enjoy. And what else? I've been living in Asia for the past 11 years, which is handy when you are developing products.
Yes, absolutely. And we will get into that part as well. Like you have a very close proximity to your manufacturers, for example. Yeah, now I'm curious. You studied design, and as a product designer, I know your background. You have been working in the corporate world for really big global brands like Asus before. And I'm curious, how did your transition look like from being an employee to become an entrepreneur, basically?
Yeah. So being in corporate, that was never the goal for me. That was like an opportunity that I had after I graduated from school, and it was exciting to work in ASUS. But the goal was always to work for a couple of years and then go back to Europe and maybe do a master's degree or something.
Hmm.
But then what happened in Singapore? I met my girlfriend and I also met my business partner, and so we Mark was already on your show, so this is you were talking about in the intro. So we started working together on a project back in 2014, and so Mark is very much the entrepreneur. He's yeah, he has all these ideas, but he really doesn't. He can't turn these ideas into products. And for me, it's pretty much the opposite. And so we decided to join forces as business partners, and
Yeah.
that's how it started. And I think we are really, really lucky that we found each other. Just
Hmm.
because it really allows us to focus on what we're really good at. Like I don't have to worry about selling my ideas basically because I can just focus on designing, and Mark is
Yeah.
taking care of the business and the marketing, um, all that kind of stuff. And I feel very privileged to be in this situation. It's been fun for the past like 7-8 years that we've worked together.
Yeah, exactly. Sticking with Asia as an example, because this is the location of choice for you. It's basically like yin and yang. You found your other side, and you can support each other. And what I found very interesting, what you just mentioned, is like you guys supporting each other with strengths, and you will cover each other weaknesses. And we will probably talk also a little bit about this more later in this podcast. Because I know you have implemented that philosophy also on other aspects there.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So now when we go to Manta Sleep and the sleep mask, I'm curious, like how did this idea seeded? What was the vision with this when you get started?
Yeah, so this really started as a passion project. We already did some other projects before. We actually had one moderately successful project on Kickstarter before, but we were never really passionate about it. And that product was also, I mean, it was heavy, it was expensive to ship, and for e-commerce, it was just not ideal. And we're looking at things that we are really excited about. And sleep, something that we are both really passionate about, and we are passionate about helping others to sleep better.
Yeah.
And we realized that with this product category, we can really do something that is better than what is already on the market, and where we can really have impact with the work that we are doing. And like in the end, when you're working on something for the 7 years that we've been in this right now, you want to do something that you're excited about every single day, and that was just not the case with the projects that we worked on before. And with this category, we've really found something that we are excited about, and that we are still excited about after all this time. And that's really the reason why we stuck with it. Another reason, obviously, if we hadn't been successful with it, it doesn't really matter how excited or how passionate you are. It's not going to work out. But thankfully, sleep as a product category and as an industry has really taken off even more in the past. At least in the 7 years that we've been in it. And we were really lucky with this category of products.
Yeah, sounds really great. So many checkboxes are ticked, especially like you do something that you're passionate about, and that is driving you and your success. Before we talk a little bit more about your design aspects, what I would like to ask you first is, can you just briefly explain for people who don't know the brand yet, what makes Manta Sleep, what makes your products special? How do they stick out in the market? And why do they receive such a feedback, such a successful feedback there?
Yeah, sure. So I could tell you a little bit more about the product itself, but to understand that better, I want to give you the background, the context first. So when we look at sleep, we see it more as a tool. We don't really see sleep or good sleep as the goal that we want to achieve. So sleep is the tool that we give people to empower themselves to feel better. When you are buying a sleep mask, you don't really you don't ask for a sleep mask where you want to feel better the next day. That is why you are buying the product in the end. So it doesn't really matter to people how they get there, and sleep and the products are just the tools that we're giving people to feel better, to feel energized, and to empower people. And I think this is the main difference between us and many of the other brands, and you can also see that in our how we present ourselves and how we display our brand. You can see there's a lot of red on our website, which is something that you don't see in other sleep brands. Usually, you see a lot of blue, green, muted colors.
Right.
But again, we want to empower people, and we want to show that in our branding as well. And this is why we are looking the way we do. And this is also why the products are the way they are. Because again, the products are the tools that empower people to live better lives, basically.
To have a better life, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, in the best case scenario, people don't even feel like they're wearing a sleep mask, right? So when you're looking at our Pro mask, for example, our most recent sleep mask, we wanted to create something that is really that blends in as much as possible when you wear it, so you really don't feel it.
Yeah, I just also have inserted here the website if people are curious, just to check out the brand itself, like the colors that Ben just mentioned, and the design of the product, which we are going to talk about right now. Mantasleep.com is the website. So that's quite a strong positioning here. You don't really highlight so much your features. I mean, you have also quite some USPs there that certainly you do, but the main differentiator is your strong positioning towards a tool that helps you to have a better life, more energy throughout the day, and an empowered lifestyle. So that's a good learning here for me personally. So now, just a quick note. We talked about media marketing tactics again with Mark Chung in episode 1, if people want to refer back to that. But now I want to ask you, as a designer, because you're also the very first designer who is on the show, and my personal, we are coming from this paid advertisement agency which is helping e-commerce businesses. So I have a lot of blind spots when it comes to design, but I'm so curious to learn more. And also, what I'm hoping to learn here is like, how can people like me who have like a better, stronger marketing mindset and skill set can communicate better and understand better product designers just like yourself? Because I think there could be many potential yin and yangs out there when people find each other, entrepreneurs and designers, and can create amazing products together. So now to dive into that, I'm curious, what role would you say does design play as a value add, especially when it comes to e-commerce businesses?
Yeah, so I think for e-commerce, or in general, I think when people buy products, good design is just expected right now, because design is one of the value adds, one of the main value adds to products. This is what you see the first time. This is the first contact point that you have with the product. When you scroll through Amazon, all you have is pretty much thumbnails. So designs need to stand out. This is one thing, but obviously the design is also what the product feels like, what all the usability is about. And so design is pretty much the product. It's not, it's the whole experience of the product. So poorly designed products just have a really hard time to survive. And when you have 3 stars on Amazon, then people are just not going to bother, right? Because there's so much choice, so much competition, and so good design makes your job as a marketer infinitely easier, because when you have a good product to sell, then people will want to use it.
Makes sense. You just said a term which I'm not familiar with. Poly design was the term. Is that right?
What was that?
Was it poly design, or like when you just talked about a lot of brands when they come up in Amazon and they're getting like a 3-star review? What was there a term that I just heard on that there are certain designs?
Or was it poor design? Poor design. Like
poor design. Okay, I got it. I understood poly design or some specific term. All good. So so that makes sense to me with this tremendous character of sticking out there and with the user experience. So let me ask you, can you please walk me through how this whole design process looks like from the start? Like, how do you get those ideas up until you put it into the actual to the manufacturer and get this production process started?
Yeah, sure. So when we start with a project, a lot of the time the idea is actually coming directly from customers. So we have a survey set up post-purchase, and we ask people what other products they're looking for. So the CS team also plays a hugely important role, of course, because they're kind of like the eyes and the ears of the team, and we talk to them all the time to
Right.
find out what our customers want. We're also doing brainstorming in the team, of course, and we look at what is out there and what we can improve, what problems we can solve. And I think that's the thing. We always start with the problem. We're looking for the problems that are not solved yet, and we're asking people for what problems they have. Because like if we're trying to design things that don't solve a problem, then maybe we do something that looks exciting, that gets people excited. But if it doesn't solve the problem that they have, then maybe they use it once, and after that they forget about it, and then they won't come back, right? So we always start with problems to solve, and usually these come directly from our customers.
Okay.
This is the ideation part.
Yeah. To stick with it, I'm curious, when you have when you get customer feedback, is this are you guys approaching them directly? Is this a proactive step, or would people just drop some comments and reviews? Like, how can I imagine this customer feedback process in this ideation steps?
Yeah, so there are many different approaches that we're doing at the same time. So we have this survey that we send out to people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we're looking at our Amazon listings all the time. Thankfully, most of the reviews are positive, but there are always things to improve. People are complaining about details, and we're always looking at this to see what we can work on, and what other products people are asking for. And when we have a hunch, when we are thinking about an area that looks promising, then we actively reach out to people and we talk to them in detail. This is something that we have wanted to do for a very long time, but we weren't really sure how to do it. We started this relatively recently, and it's quite exciting because you can get so much more out of people when you talk to them and when you observe what they are doing than what you could ever get from Amazon reviews or from surveys. So many times people tell you exactly what they want, but then when you give them exactly that, they find out it doesn't really fit their existing habits or their lifestyle. And so I think the challenge is really to look at what the problems are and then translate it into what products actually get the job done.
Oh, that sounds like quite an art. Sometimes, like, even the customers, they might think they need a certain feature, but then they figure out it's not actually worthwhile. So there's a lot of you need to revisit certain parts and remodel them. When we now see from the ideation stage, what would be the next point? Like, if you take a good idea, you identified your problem, you take this problem, and now you want to create a product, what would you do next?
Yeah, there's usually a lot of testing. We invested into a workshop in our studio so we can develop ideas very quickly in-house.
Mm-hmm.
So we usually just hacking up a bunch of mock-ups to test with the team. These are the first steps. And Yeah, so we also have a really good manufacturing partner. So we involve them very early in the process to make sure that products can actually be manufactured. But a lot of the testing happens in-house first, mostly with our team.
Okay. So basically you're coming up with those mock-ups and then you give it to actual team members to test them, or do you send them also to the customers that you feedback before?
Yeah, so ideally we also want to send it to customers. This is kind of like in the works right now.
Mm.
So far, it's a little bit difficult logistically because it doesn't really make sense to just send one prototype to one customer. So you want to kind of blanket it out a little bit, and for that to happen, you really need like a pre-production batch almost of the product.
Ah,
So
yeah.
this would happen a little bit later in the process, but yeah, this
I
is
see.
the intention for sure to work with our customers on this.
That makes sense. Now let's say you found a positive prototype, and you already mentioned you are in close contact with a manufacturer. So what happens next in this process?
Yeah, so we have a really good manufacturing partner, and they're really open-minded when it comes to new ideas. Many times when you have a manufacturer, they have one category of products that they're really good at, and then they're not really interested to develop other products because it takes them a lot of time, it takes them a lot of resources to spend on that.
Yeah.
I give you an example. Like for the first product that we did with our manufacturing partner that we are still working with after 7 years right now, for the first 2 years, they pretty much didn't make any money from us because we were
Oh,
just
wow.
developing the product. And they took a big risk because we were pretty much
Wow.
nobody, right? We didn't even have our Kickstarter campaign up and running yet because we needed the product before we can actually go on Kickstarter. So we've been very lucky with this manufacturer. And in the beginning, we developed the product very, very closely with the manufacturer. We are still talking to them right now when we are developing new products. But what we did in the beginning is we kind of sent them sketches and 2D drawings, and then we asked them to build the prototype and send it back. And this just took a very, very long time. And sometimes we would fly to China to speed things up. We can't do that anymore right now because of COVID, obviously. But what we ended up doing is we set up this workshop ourselves in-house. So we are now able to build much better prototypes, do a lot of the testing in-house first. All the designers that we hire, they know how to use a sewing machine. We're doing mostly soft good products, right? So you got to
Okay.
know how to sew. So when we are sending the prototypes to our supplier in China, I would say it's like 80% done.
Okay.
And this really speeds up the process so much. This has made a huge difference. And I mean, it's difficult. It's a lot easier to just send a sketch to China and then let them figure out the details. But it's very, very time consuming. So the way we're doing it right now is a much better way, and
Efficient.
it's efficient. And especially during COVID right now, it's not just that we can't go there, but also shipping takes longer, right? Like if we have to send samples back and forth, it's just not a very efficient way to develop products at the moment.
Right. Yeah, I want to stick with this manufacturing partner. It seems to be like that's a very strategic partner that it takes definitely quite some effort and some time to make sure that you find the right partner. And what I was also not aware that this partner took a large risk, especially at the beginning when you did not have the workshop yet, and they were spending so much time in the development process. So now I would be curious, like, could you let me know how did you find such a partner, and how did you foster those long-term relationships? How did you make them trust you?
Yeah. This is a very good question, and it's actually, as you would expect it. We just found these guys on Alibaba. This is there's no secrets to spill here. Yes, we found them, and we were lucky that they were in this situation where they had an open mind and they were working with startups, and they were looking for a relationship to establish as well. So yeah, so they took a risk, but I feel like we convinced them with the ideas that we had.
Okay.
In the end, to pitch your idea to a manufacturer is almost like you're selling your product to a client, right? You gotta convince them somehow to work together, because good manufacturers, they have a lot of options, and if your product is not compelling, or if it's too difficult for them, if they need to spend too much time without any return, it's not going to work out. Like, it's got to be a win for both sides, and I'm it's almost I don't know. I really can't tell you how we convinced them, because I would have done many things so much differently. Looking back, we were pretty inexperienced. I think we were lucky that the supplier was also quite young at that time. They had been in business for a couple of years, but I think they were looking for something more. They had been doing pretty simple products, and I think they were looking at just growing. And we have been growing for sure. Like, we have been pushing each other, hugely. Really, it's a two-way relationship. It's not that we challenged our supplier; they have also been challenging us. And I wish I could give you the secrets why we made this work, but there is a lot of luck involved in finding the supplier.
I see. It seems it was a lot of puzzle pieces somehow just fell into the right order at the right time here in this entire process. You just also mentioned that now sleep products have been taking off throughout the last 7 years, and so a lot of good pieces just came together. Just to clarify, did you have any specific criteria that a manufacturer need to have? Like, when you checked on Alibaba, like, how many options did you have, and how did you make sure that you kind of narrow it down to the highest potential manufacturing partners that you can work with?
Oh yeah, sure. So we obviously, when you're doing a very niche product, you got to get creative in what kind of categories of products you're looking at. But we looked at backpack manufacturers, soft toy manufacturers. We looked at a bunch of categories, and we limited it to, I think it was probably at least 5 manufacturers that we worked with very closely in the beginning, that we asked to build samples. And this is still the same when we're looking for manufacturers right now. We have a couple of main manufacturers that we're working with, but we're always looking for new suppliers when we have new product categories. And there will be at least 5 suppliers that we look at very, very closely. It's difficult right now because we can't visit them, obviously. China still has the zero COVID policy. They don't let anybody in. But there's a lot of calls involved for our main suppliers. We talk to them almost daily. And for new manufacturers, like there's always a sample that we ask them to do, and this tells you a lot. It doesn't just tell you about the quality that they can achieve. It also tells you about how creative they are to solve problems, how the communication works, how trustworthy they are. You can tell a lot by just going through a few meetings with them. A lot of suppliers, they will tell you, I mean, they tell you they can do pretty much anything. But then when you get the first samples, you realize very quickly what they are actually capable of. And
Yeah.
when you're comparing the samples from different suppliers, you get a very good idea very, very quickly which direction to go into.
Yeah, that's amazing. You can see their professional level, and if they're not only talking the talk, but also walking the walk.
Right.
Interesting. You just threw out another keyword that I'm also wondering. Zero COVID policy in China. That means no one can get in and out, maybe as well. How does this impact your whole supply chain and this process here of getting new products out?
Yeah, it's scary for sure. And when I would advise people to look for manufacturers, I would definitely recommend to look at options outside of China at the moment, because there's a lot of
Oh, wow.
uncertainty in China. It happens from time to time that even with our setup of suppliers, that they tell us, hey guys, we will probably be shut down for a week. So yeah, they don't know. It can happen anytime that there's an outbreak in the area, and then the whole factory gets shut down.
Okay. Yeah.
Thankfully, it hasn't really impacted our manufacturing, but we are absolutely looking at diversification, because
Yeah.
it's risky to. I mean, it's not just COVID, right? It's also the political risk of being just in one country, especially a country like China. So yeah, it is advisable to look at other options. Vietnam is really growing, and yeah, there are other countries that we're looking at, but at the same time, China is just the best option for developing products, because you have everything in one place. You have everything from the raw materials. You have all the fabric mills in China, all the way to the expertise and the knowledge that it takes to build high quality products. And it's like when you go to China and you're driving around with your suppliers, like for me, it's always like being in Legoland almost, because I find it really, really exciting to jump from one factory to the other. And when you're driving around, you can be in the like main assembling factory, and 1 hour later you can be in like a screen printing factory or whatever. Everything is really centralized. So suppliers, they have their network of suppliers, and this is very, very unique in China, and this is probably going to take some time before you get something like this in countries like Vietnam.
Absolutely, yeah. The world's factory, how they say. And you mentioned it will take a long while in countries such as Vietnam. Are there any other countries that you are looking into besides Vietnam for potential partners?
Yeah, so again, China is still our best bet. We're really hoping that the COVID situation is getting better. Like Vietnam is an option. Other than that, there's not too many options. There's Cambodia, there's Indonesia to some degree, but
yeah,
again, it's like the infrastructure is just not comparable to China or even Vietnam.
Makes sense. Yeah, thank you first of all to break that process down. I think that was really quite interesting to understand how you get to know those manufacturing partners. When we go back to your company, to the business, you guys have an in-house team, a design team, and you have invested in all of those equipment. What would you advise for other brands, maybe startups? What is the difference between having an in-house team or hiring an outsourced designer and so on? Do you think it's like, yeah, where would be the differences here?
Yeah, I think so. In general, it has become a lot easier to design products as a startup through agencies, or also even just through like Upwork, or just hiring designers in-house remotely, or just part-time, or whatever. The thing is, so tools are becoming a lot more accessible. It's getting cheaper. You don't have to spend like $10,000 on a CAD license, for example. There are a lot of cheaper tools and options right now. But that also means that when things are getting easier, of course, the competition is getting stronger, right? So
Yeah.
it really depends on where you are at and the type of products that you're doing. In the beginning, it might be tempting and easy to work with an agency, but like an agency will never know your customers as well as you do, right? And they will never be as dedicated to the product as you are. And I think a good balance would be if you can outsource design to remote team members, because it can save you money potentially, and there's also just a lot of great talent that you have access to when you look remotely.
Yeah.
It's not always possible. For us, our products are very hands-on. We're doing soft goods. There's a lot of ergonomics involved. You just got to touch it. You got to test it. You got to put it on people to see how it fits and how it works, right? But if we were to do the Bluetooth speaker, for example, I wouldn't have to do this in Taiwan or with my team. I could just send this to a designer in like Serbia or wherever, and they could design it. I can get the file, 3D print it, have a look, and then when everything is confirmed, I can send it to China. So I think technology is making things just infinitely easier, and so it's not always necessary to have a team in-house. It really depends on the product category and what your needs are, and where you are in the journey in your business as well.
Okay. So I'm kind of filtering out, like maybe especially at the beginning, it could be a great way to outsource the science part and get ideas relatively easy. Maybe you don't also have so much feedback and resources at the beginning, but later it seems to be a great value at a certain stage if the startup matured into a business, and then if you have resources on your hand, it might be a benefit just to have everything in-house, so you have like the direct client feedback loop here, and everything is really committed
and also,
and
especially
focused
if you
on
consider the different aspects of design. There's the technical aspect, which is like building the CAD, just doing the sketches, the drawings, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And this is something that is easier to outsource. But when you're looking at the parts that generate most of the value, this is actually creating the concepts and talking to customers, and like I mentioned, like translating customer needs into products. And this is just a lot easier to do when you are in direct contact with your customers, when you're in direct contact with marketing. There are just a lot of things that need to come together. There's a ton of communication, and it's doable with an agency, but it is going to take a lot longer for sure. And it's just to me at this stage, it's a better way to design directly with our customers, and and this is really where most of the value is coming from when we're talking about design.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, thank you so much. That's very educative to me. Before we slowly wrap it up, I'm curious, like, what would be the vision for Manta Sleep? What can we find, in the near future or in the future? Like where's the brand gonna go? What are you guys going to do next?
Yeah, we keep doing what we're doing. I'm really excited to keep talking to our customers, because like I said, this is something that is really just starting for us, and there's just so much we are learning, and that we're only that is really opening up our mind right now. And yeah, this is there's still a lot for us to do, and yeah, we just keep empowering people with with our products, and yeah, you can expect a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, exciting. Hopefully, a lot of great insights and inputs will come out from this new process that you guys are developing right now. If you can recommend some resources to our listeners if they want to learn more about design or e-commerce in general, what would you recommend them?
Well, I would imagine that a lot of the listeners of this podcast actually are entrepreneurs rather than designers. So I know that a lot of designers are actually looking into starting businesses as well. So I think this is a fantastic opportunity for entrepreneurs to partner up with designers, which is how we did that, Mark and me. And to me, just a great starting point is always LinkedIn. This is very very obvious, maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really have any fantastic recommendations for design resources.
Well, it's already inspiring to know, especially to hear as an entrepreneur that there are so many designers out there that they're just looking for an opportunity. So, that makes a lot of sense, and that might be very motivating for the one or the other entrepreneur to reach out to certain designers. So, thanks for emphasizing on that. So I already showed the brand website, mantasleep.com. If people want to learn more about your brand, the products, the design, and just to see the product about what we just talked about in this podcast. So I want to ask you, if people want to connect with you, where could they find you?
Yeah, so people can find me on LinkedIn, Ben Schwarz, and you can also shoot me an email at ben@mentasleep.com.
Amazing. And just one note from my side here, we are inviting every podcast guest to be part of our Facebook community, and I will drop a link into the description as well. So feel free to join if you want to get in touch with our podcast guests in that way. For now, I learned a lot. That this was one of the longest podcast episodes I have recorded. There's just so much to learn. I hope everyone who's listening is also feeling the same. So Ben, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and it was good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Marco. Thanks for the invite.